Together we will stand strong, and we will not let hate put us in fear, but we will let love lead us the way.
Undeniable resilience as the community gathers to remember the victims of the Danforth shooting. Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. Tomorrow marks 1 year since a man walked onto the Danforth and opened fire, shooting indiscriminately as people were having a quiet evening in Greektown. 2 people were killed, 13 injured. On the eve of the 1-year anniversary, a ceremony was held to honor those victims. Angelina King reports.
A year after losing her sister, Quinn Fallon says each day just gets harder.
Every day I'll wake up and hope that it's a nightmare, and then I just realize that she's gone, so yeah, it's hard.
Reese Fallon is being remembered as outgoing, fun, and a natural caregiver. Her younger sister misses her humor and presence the most. But today she found comfort in the ceremony.
It shows that there's a lot of support and everything, so yeah.
On July 22nd, 2018, Faisal Hussein opened fire along the bustling Danforth Avenue. He killed 10-year-old Juliana Kozes, 18-year-old Reese Fallon, and injured 13 others before killing himself.
We may never know the answer to why.
Police have said Hussein had a long history of mental illness, but couldn't pinpoint a motive for the shooting.
We share your grief, and you are not alone.
The day before the 1-year anniversary, a ceremony to honor the victims, support their families, and thank first responders through song. In the midst of pain, I choose love. Poetry.
The Danforth, blue and gold with flowers in the tall sky.
And a moment of silence.
To remember Reese and Juliana, let us pause.
Led by Toronto Police Chaplain Wendell Gibbs, who had this message for Toronto.
Rather than be isolated, let's be insulated. So let's insulate each other from the violence, from the crime, and from the hate and judgment that we are seeing.
Shooting victim Danielle Kane says the ceremony brings the community together.
And then to see how many people have come together to reclaim Danforth as a safe space for families and children. I mean, it's amazing, really.
Kane still fights the physical and emotional pain, but says with time, she and the community are pushing through.
We're never going to forget the beautiful souls of Reese and Juliana, but we are healing.
And tomorrow evening, to mark exactly 1 year, a candlelight vigil will be held at sunset. Another opportunity for the community to honor the victims, support their families, and come together in resilience. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
And dozens of runners and walkers also took to the Danforth tonight to honor the victims of the shooting. People gathered at Coxwell in Danforth for the second Danforth Strong Run on the eve of the anniversary. The runners ran across the Danforth, ending at Alexander the Great Parkette and Fountain in Greektown. To other news, and the ongoing battle between the city and an illegal marijuana dispensary chain continues. Toronto police say 8 people were arrested today at 2 cannabis sidewalk sales. Police say they broke up crowds gathered outside of the 2 cafe locations. That's the dispensary chain the city has tried to shut down by placing cement blocks in front of the store's entrance. Police say they also seized iPads with customer orders and information, illegal products, debit machines, and walkie-talkies. A similar sale happened on Friday night, according to police. 1 man was charged then with unlawful sale and distribution. 3 Toronto beaches have been closed because of high E. coli levels. That makes the waters unsafe for swimming. Toronto Public Health ruled Sunnyside, Cherry, and Marie Curtis beaches unsafe to swim on Saturday. The closures come as temperatures dropped to the high 20s after the city had previously been under a heat warning. Health officials say exposure to E. coli can present a risk of skin infections and other conditions. They say the area is still safe for picnics and other activities. So the weather, a hot topic certainly over this weekend. Let's check in with Winston C. to see whether or not that heat wave is finally gone.
Well, that heat wave, it has been kind of, not so great for many of our plans, but luckily today wasn't too bad. So as you wake up tomorrow, temperatures going to be a little more comfortable, 19 feeling like 20 degrees. As you move through the afternoon, it is going to climb to 25. Factor in the humidex, it's going to feel like 31, so still manageable there. 22 degrees, feeling like 25 by the time you move into your evening after that commute. This is the look at the satellite radar right now as it does push through. If you're down through Windsor, that is where you are seeing some precipitation, but through Toronto, all in all, not too bad, though some cloud cover will start to build into the overnight as the system does approach us. Now, this is the precipitation forecast. There's the low, and as I start to play this into the overnight, most of it is going to stay stateside, luckily, though you do see that cloud cover moving in, and then we see another high that's going to swing through, and northern Ontario going to see a little bit of rain there as well. This is the future rainfall, so pre-dawn into your Monday morning, you're going to see some rain for your commute there, but it will push through the afternoon, though we do see some cells north of Toronto that could see the risk of some thunderstorm activity. But the story here is the heat, and this is the good news story. It's going to stay manageable, but what's the later week going to look like? We'll have that coming up. Back to you.
Okay, we'll check with you in a bit. Thanks, Winston. An Ontario man spent months fighting with an online travel company for a refund after they mistakenly told him his flight was cancelled. It was a long, frustrating battle that left him feeling like he had nowhere to turn. But as Hawaii Fidel reports, there are options for travelers looking for recourse when bookings go wrong.
I feel pretty disappointed in the client service.
This Canadian immigration officer was out more than $1,000 after Expedia told him his Ethiopian Airlines flight from Ghana to Senegal was cancelled. After confirming with the company numerous times, he says he took matters into his own hands.
So I scrambled, found a flight home at my own expense.
But once he arrived at the airport, he saw something surprising.
Senegal, I saw on the board that the flight actually wasn't canceled.
That's when his 4-month-long ordeal seeking a refund began.
It really was this case of like ping pong between the airline and the travel agency. Neither took responsibility.
In an emailed statement, Expedia said the canceled flight notification was triggered by the airline, saying when the customer was incorrectly tagged as a no-show, the airline canceled the other flights, and thus an email was sent notifying the customer of the canceled flights from Expedia. But Ethiopian Airlines says it never released cancellation notifications for those particular flights. CBC News reached out to Expedia on July 2nd. A week later, Ian McGrath says he finally received the refund.
The first thing consumers should do when they're booking online is look for the TICO registration number or TICO logo.
Dorian Werda is with the Travel Industry Council of Ontario. TICO administers the Ontario Travel Act and has a complaints department for consumers.
Anyone around the world who books with an Ontario travel retailer on their website, in person or online or over the phone, has the same protections.
Right now, only Ontario, BC, and Quebec have regulations to protect customers in travel disputes. In McGrath's case, Expedia is based in Ontario, so he could have filed a complaint with TICO, but after his ordeal, he likely won't use the online travel sites anytime soon.
It just left me with the impression that I won't be using Expedia or other travel sites again, because I need to get to places and they can't guarantee that I'll actually make it there.
Hawaii Fidel, CBC News, Toronto.
Once you start telling American citizens to, quote, go back to your own countries, this tells you that this president's policies are not about immigration, it's about ethnicity and racism.
The war of words continues. Details on a fresh new attack by the U.S. president against the 4 women now dubbed the Squad. The Canadian and Quebec governments are trying to defuse a tense situation involving the communities of Oka and Ganasatake.
When you're talking the way you're talking there, Mr. Mayor, it's very dangerous.
The mayor of Oka recently voiced discontent about a potential land transfer to the Mohawk people. The Oka mayor claims he wasn't consulted about it. He also complained about Mohawk cigarette and cannabis stalls, saying they would affect local property values. Mohawk leaders denounced his comments. Oka was the scene of a bitter standoff back in 1990. The families of a young couple found dead in northern BC are looking for answers. The American woman and her Australian boyfriend were found early this week in a van on the roadside. The CBC's Austin Grabish has the story.
Sheila Deese is trying to bring her daughter home. China Deese and her Australian boyfriend, Lucas Fowler, had just started a road trip in a remote corner of BC. Their bodies were found along the Alaska Highway on Monday.
Each day gets harder because the more that I'm watching, and it's everywhere, you know, the words brutal and violently are haunting me. And so while I want to know the details, it's not going to change my outcome.
China had flown from her home in Charlotte, North Carolina to be with Fowler, who was working on a BC ranch. The two were planning to explore the Canadian Rockies before stopping in Alaska. They were traveling in this van Fowler fixed up until it broke down Sunday afternoon.
We were just going down the highway and came around the corner, and there was that blue van kind of halfway down with the hood up, and they were parked over to the side.
Sandra Broughton says she and her husband may have been among the last people to see the couple alive. They pulled over to help them around 3:30 on Sunday, but Fowler seemed to have everything under control, so they left.
Oh, I was horrified. Just to think we just seen them and to get that news.
Deese says RCMP told her that her daughter was shot. She wants to know why her daughter was killed and spoke about how this has devastated her family.
I have one less child, and I have 3 very sad children. They always say, you know, mom can only be as happy as her saddest child, and I have 3 broken kids.
Deese is now planning her daughter's funeral as she waits for her body to come home. RCMP are being tight-lipped about any leads in the case. Austin Grabish, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Donald Trump launched a fresh Twitter attack on 4 congresswomen today, a week after tweeting that the women should go back to where they came from. His opponents call him racist. His supporters call it fake news. Neither side is backing down. CBC's Paul Hunter has the latest from Washington.
Singling out again 4 women, all congressional Democrats, all Trump critics, and lost on no one, all women of color, tweeted Donald Trump today, "I don't believe the 4 congresswomen are capable of loving our country." The 4, dubbed the Squad, first took fire as a group from Trump last weekend when he tweeted they should go back where they came from. Setting aside that all 4 are U.S. citizens, 3 of them born here. It sparked a fresh round of accusations against Trump, continuing this morning.
This is a guy who is worse than a racist. He is actually using racist tropes and racial language for political gain. He's trying to use this as a weapon to divide our nation against itself.
Countered Trump advisors today.
I think the term racist has become a label that is too often deployed by the left, Democrats in this country, simply to try to silence and punish and suppress people they disagree with, speech that they don't want to hear. The reality is that this president has been a president for all Americans.
Omar. Polls suggest most Americans oppose Trump's message on this, but at a rally Wednesday in North Carolina, plenty in so-called Trump Nation seemed just fine with it. Chanting, "Send her back," about one of the 4, Ilhan Omar, who fled Somalia in '92, became a U.S. citizen in 2000 and was elected to Congress last fall. Meanwhile, in the Washington Post this morning, a report highlighting worries among Republicans when it comes to Trump and race, citing some 24 Trump insiders and their view Trump didn't understand what he'd done amid their efforts at damage control. But, says the Post, Trump effectively ignored guidance on this. Today, Trump tweeted about the report, calling it, as he does, fake news. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
A recording's been released of radio communications from a British tanker on Thursday. It shows the warship warning Iranian patrol not to interfere with the tanker.
Please confirm that you are not intending to violate international law by unlawfully attempting to board the MV Senator.
The Iranians did board the vessel. It was seen today flying the Iranian flag. The action is widely understood as retaliation for the British seizure of an Iranian vessel 2 weeks ago. The British government is expected to respond to the action tomorrow in Parliament. Emergency crews in Portugal spent the day battling a wildfire. 800 firefighters were deployed, high temperatures and strong winds complicating their work. 13 airplanes joined more than 200 firefighting vehicles in the effort. It is one of 3 fires burning in the same area. The 2 others are now under control. Violence erupted again today in an anti-government protest in Hong Kong. Just hours after the main rally, thousands of protesters headed to China's liaison office, pelting it with eggs and spray painting graffiti. Police responded with tear gas. A bill that would have allowed extraditions to the mainland triggered the recent unrest. And while Hong Kong's chief executive says the proposal is now dead, the issue has galvanized opposition to any expansion of Beijing's influence. Well, a Chinese Canadian from the GTA is getting his cape. Simu Liu's journey to the Marvel universe and what it means for fans after the break. A featured player in one of the CBC's most watched comedies is about to become a star player on the big screen. Simu Liu from Kim's Convenience has been cast as Shang-Chi. As Tanya Fletcher reports, that makes him the first Chinese superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Here's the thing. When I was 16, my dad kicked me out.
Simu Liu stars as Jung Kim on Kim's Convenience, set in Toronto. His character helped turn the show into a hit, highlighting Canadian diversity. And now Hollywood has noticed too.
The incredible Simu Liu.
San Diego's renowned Comic-Con was the backdrop for the big cast reveal. Shang-Chi is Marvel's first superhero film featuring an Asian lead. It's a title Liu takes with pride and humor.
I feel like I was kind of this social experiment of let's just take this guy, the ordinary guy living in Toronto, let's tell him that he's gonna be in the next Marvel movie and give him 4 days to prep for it.
Liu says he was screen tested just a week ago and only found out he was cast on Tuesday. He calls it the fulfillment of a dream. Others call it a long time coming.
It feels really significant. It does feel like there's momentum.
Nancy Wong Ewan lives in LA and has authored a book about racism in Hollywood. She applauds the diverse casts of blockbuster hits like Black Panther, but she says there's still more work to be done.
We need to support not just kind of the Marvel films, but the smaller films so that we can have a diversity of voices. It's more than just kind of seeing yourself represented, but interactive. So social media, I think, is part of the changes as well, that you can see in real time that audiences don't want a whitewashed character.
There are changes that are being felt not only in TV and film, but also the comic book industry.
I think that's going to mean a lot to a lot of Canadians.
Hank Patterson's comic book store in Vancouver has seen a recent spike in demand for Shang-Chi as fans await the new Marvel film.
I know a lot of people who have been fans of Shang-Chi their entire lives who, are very rich in both the Canadian and the Chinese identity, and it always means so much to everybody to see representation on the screen.
It all amounts to high expectation for a film many feel can't come soon enough. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
He helped the Raptors win the NBA championship, but Danny Green is now heading to the Los Angeles Lakers. Today, he gave a final goodbye to fans in Toronto.
Playing with those guys, I'm going to miss it. Playing for, those coaches are going to miss it, but that's probably the hardest part because we see each other every day. We build a bond, a friendship, a family together. We become, brothers along the way, and it's hard to, just sometimes let your brothers go or, go to a different team and play against your brothers. It's going to be weird, but at the same time, it's part of the game and it makes it fun.
Green came to Toronto with Kawhi Leonard as part of the DeMar DeRozan trade. And while Leonard took much of the spotlight this season, Green also left his mark on the North. He toured the country, meeting fans and hosting basketball camps for kids.
We all struggle, but with hard work, humility, and dedication, imperfect people can still have perfect moments. Roy was blessed in his life and in his career to have some perfect moments, but I believe that they were only possible because of the man he strived to be, the teammate that he was, and the people he was so blessed to be on the field with.
That's Brandy Halliday, widow of the late Roy Halladay, speaking at her husband's induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame today. Roy Halladay was a beloved pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays from 1998 to 2009 before playing his last 4 seasons with the Philadelphia Phillies. The family opted not to place a team logo on the plaque because both teams mattered a lot to Halladay. The 40-year-old was killed in a plane crash in November of 2017.
It's a terrific opportunity for the national team to source athletes. You get a lot of young athletes coming through, and they're able to identify in the system as to being talented or able to compete at a high level.
Canadian triathlete Simon Whitfield was on hand at the Toronto Triathlon Festival today, taking in the talent crossing the finish line. Athletes took to the course to swim, bike, and run in the 2-day event at Ontario Place. Erin Snellgrove placed first in the women's Olympic distance, while Antoine Francoeur of Montreal placed first for the men's Olympic distance. Was quite a weekend to be competing in anything outside. Let's check back in with Winston to see what the longer term forecast is looking at. I love the heat, Winston. I'm done with this humidity though.
Well, Maribel, I know I'm a bit over with the humidity as well. Today was the better day to be outside. If you were opting to be outside, I took a moment to have brunch along King Street, so it wasn't too bad. This is what's going on the satellite radar right now. If you're down in the extreme southwest, that's where you're going to see the humidity. But in Toronto, we're dealing with pretty clear conditions right now with some building cloud cover as we do move into your Monday. But this is what the rainfall timing is going to look like. This is what we're watching for as we head into next weekend. Building heat, building humidity that is going to bring some of those temperatures back up. Unfortunate news for some, but not as bad as we were seeing in the last week or so. So this is what the temperature trend looks like meanwhile before the next weekend comes along, hovering into the low to mid-20s. So all in all, not too bad for your Monday, but this is the future rainfall that comes across. A bit of rain into the pre-dawn Monday, but your Monday morning commute, all in all, not too bad. What we are watching out for is some precipitation that'll move in later on in the week, but this high area of high will move in, a little bit of rain will move across, and then by the time we move into your Wednesday, things are going to be clear, and then Thursday is when rain is going to come in, but all in all, not too bad. Mid-20s for you, Maribel. Back to you.
I will take it. Thanks a lot, Winston.
Thank you.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. As we say goodbye to the weekend, we're going to leave you with some sights and sounds from Pizza Fest that took place over Ontario Place this weekend. Never too hot for pizza. Have a great night, everyone.